Thank you, good save, yeah. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Hillsborough Town Manager Eric Peterson, and I'm going to give you a brief overview about the impacts of Tropical Storm Chantal in our town over the past week. On Sunday night, Chantal dropped about 10.5 inches of rain in a very short period of time in the Hillsborough area. The state emergency management listing has that listed as the third highest rainfall total in the state of North Carolina. To exacerbate the situation, the areas that are north of Hillsborough, where the east and west forks of the Eno River lead into Hillsborough, added 13 inches of rain upstream, and that created a situation where it was unprecedented in Hillsborough. The prior benchmark for flooding was in 1996 during Hurricane Fran, and the heights that the water reached and the rapid nature in which it did vastly exceeded anything we have seen before. In fact, after Hurricane Helene in western North Carolina, our emergency management team internally reviewed flood maps to try to identify potential evacuation areas and making adjustments to town facilities at a level that we had never seen before. We even took it to a 500-year flood level. Our early projections are that this was close to a 1,000-year flood event. Much of the equipment, infrastructure, and vehicles that were destroyed or heavily damaged in Hillsborough were not only outside the 100-year floodplain, they were outside the 500-year benchmark. As a result, our utilities director will talk in just a couple minutes about the water and sewer system specifically. In addition to those assets that we've had, major damage was done to our public works operations. We lost our operations building, office trailer, and we've lost about a third of all of our public works equipment that allows us to provide solid waste and street service. Fortunately, we have enough equipment that was located at other facilities that we're still able to continue that operations, but we did lose about a third of our equipment. We are still going through the list of equipment we're going to need replacing, and we were going to get on that as quickly as possible. We have lost some of our major bulk moving equipment, the knuckle boom trucks. Major thank you to Durham County. They have sent a mutual aid truck. We have rented trucks, and we're going to get other mutual aid assistance until we can get those replaced. Our fleet staff has saved probably about 6 or 7 vehicles that were in the floodwaters, so that has limited the damage. For those, Gold Park and the Riverwalk Greenway are well known throughout the state of North Carolina. Those experienced tremendous flooding. For those that are familiar in the area with Gold Park on the Riverwalk, the restroom facilities are the furthest asset that is away from the river, and the flood levels that far away still reach 6 feet in that facility. All of the bridges and boardwalk and other facilities along the Riverwalk are going engineering assessments, making sure structurally they're okay. We are already coordinating repairs, but it is going to be at least weeks before we can possibly get those facilities back online. An amazing job by the town employees across to be very flexible and get operations going back quickly. Now I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Utilities Director Marie Strandwitz. She's going to talk about the impact on our water and sewer system and the progress that's being made. Thank you.
Don't want that to blow away. Is here okay? Thank you everyone for coming out. I am Marie Strandwitz, the Utilities Director. For your records, that's MARIE STRANDWITZ. And if you don't have my card, I do have some available. The current status of the water system is that our water plant is not online right now, but we are on the verge of getting it back online. We had flooding of our finished water storage tank, which is an in-ground storage tank, partially buried, and we have vents on the side of it. So the Eno River came up and got into those vents, and we visibly saw contamination of river water into our finished drinking water. And so we immediately issued a boil water notice. Typically, we would only issue an advisory, but since we visibly observed that flooding, we went straight to a notice even before we took bacteria tests. But I can say right now that we have gotten the tanks cleared out and sanitized, refilled, and we are actually waiting on our final bacteria testing right now. And once that is received, and if it is absent of bacteria, we will be able to put our water treatment plant back online. I would like to give a huge thank you to the City of Durham because they are supplying the town with our water right now through our distribution system. Because of all the utilities in this area, we are very focused on supply and resiliency. Many of us, including the town of Hillsborough, have pipe connections to other jurisdictions just for this reason. So we are thankful for them, and we are holding steady, and we were able to lift our boil water notice sooner than later after taking over 30 bacteria tests throughout the distribution system. On our wastewater side, we had incredible flooding of our river pumping station. That is our oldest and largest sewer pumping station, which takes over 75% of the town's wastewater. It was built in the 70s with this original wastewater treatment plant, and it is right on the other side of this fencing in the floodway of the Eno River, which, as you know, raised an unprecedented amount last Sunday night into Monday morning. So there has been active sanitary sewer overflows along that area where we have incoming gravity sewer pipes. We have gravity sewer pipes that have to go in low-lying areas that carry the wastewater to the treatment plant. But we just got some bypass pumping online, which you'll be able to see hopefully later today. And now we have, as of this morning, seen a dramatic decrease in sewer overflows from the manholes that go along our River Rock Greenway and Gold Park and all up the system. And we had a few other more, I guess, minor sewer issues. Those have all been remedied. We had some flooding at our second largest sewer pumping station, which is right down Elizabeth Brady Road. That was put back online within 2 days. So I can say that things are taking a positive turn for the town and our utilities. And I also want to obviously thank my wonderful staff and other members of the town staff. We work together as family during these times. We spend the night. We help other divisions and departments. And without that, we would not be able to restore service as quickly as possible to our customers. And with that, I will turn it over to Mayor Bell, and then we will circle back for additional questions you have.
Good afternoon. I'm Mark Bell, Mayor of Hillsborough, and I want to thank Town Manager Eric Peterson and Utilities Director Marie Stranwitz, who have already provided the main information about the impact of the storm to the town of Hillsborough and our current operations. I want to say a few words about Hillsborough's recent loss of FEMA Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities grants, also known as BRIC grants, to relocate the river pump station out of the floodplain, and the impact of this loss to our future public safety and economic development. BRIC grants were designed to help shift towns from reactive disaster spending to proactive investment to avoid future costs related to events such as Tropical Storm Chantal. For every dollar spent on pre-disaster mitigation preparedness, at least $6 in disaster response and rebuilding costs are avoided. There were approximately 2,500 BRIC grants nationwide, 75 of which were in North Carolina, and the town of Hillsborough was awarded 2 of those grants, totaling about $6.8 million. This is a very substantial amount of money for a small town like Hillsborough, and to lose it suddenly was very impactful. The majority of our BRIC grant dollars were to relocate the 1970s wastewater pumping station that Marie mentioned earlier out of the Eno River floodplain Flooding damaged the station during the previous storms, and Tropical Storm Chantal has taken it offline once again and is preventing us from being able to effectively treat our wastewater. Temporary bypass pumps are being installed now, and replacements will be installed in the months ahead. But the river pump station must eventually be relocated to ensure the health of the community and to allow for future economic development in Hillsborough. To be clear, the impact of Tropical Storm Chantal on the river pump station is exactly the type of scenario that BRIC grants were intended to protect the public against. Restoration of BRIC program funding for Hillsborough would benefit the entire town, especially our economic development along the US 70 corridor, Old NC 86, I-40, and I-85 economic development districts, UNC Hospital's Hillsborough campus, and the Durham Tech Community College Hillsborough Orange campus. We encourage the restoration of funding for all BRIC grantees to help strengthen the public safety and promote economic development for small towns like Hillsborough. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll take questions.
What are you all advising residents impacted by this sewage spill right now?
Can you repeat the question?
What are you all advising residents who are impacted by the current scenario, situation, the sewage spill?
The sewage spill?
Yeah.
Do you want to take that one?
Do you want me to put this back on?
I think we'll just leave it on the table.
Okay. Yes, well, right now the Riverwalk and Gold Park are closed for the other damages that have occurred. So as long as the public heeds our instruction not to go into those areas, then they will be isolated from that sewage. Granted, there is raw sewage compared to the amount that the river rose, the dilution, and the groundwater that entered the pipes, as well as rainwater and river water. The state has not recommended that we do any additional sampling and cleanup. As fast as the river was going, any evidence of a sewer overflow would have been long washed away. We still recommend that the public stay out of the areas until it is safe and the Riverwalk is opened. And we really didn't have anywhere else, but under normal situations, we would cordon off that area, put some signage, we would pick up any debris that was noticeable, and we would sanitize that area and reseed it.
Are there any boil water notice advisories, notices, anything at this time?
No,
Okay. What's the, go ahead if you had to answer.
just conservation, because we are running off the City of Durham water, and we just want to make sure there's enough supply for everyone, and then without having treatment capacity for some of the sewage, that's why we have conservation in place right now.
And what does that look like for any residents?
Well, we would like them to minimize dishwashing, washing their cars, irrigating, really anything that uses water. We would love to say hold off on your showers, but sometimes that is not possible. So if you have to take one, please, be brief. We would ask them, and just try to hold off. We're going to be back online soon, and everyone can catch up with those things.
So the water is not safe to drink?
The water is safe to drink, but the conservation's from a supply and treatment perspective. So we have a water quality perspective that we are clear and we are good, but we still have a supply and treatment issue, which is why we're asking for still conservation.
What is the cost you have to make all these repairs, you lost vehicles, you're paying for water.
Mhm.
Is there any kind of dollar figure at this point?
Well, certainly we know that we have called vendors in to pump out our water clear wells and to sanitize them. We have the vendor providing the pumps over here at our sewage pumping station. We had a sewer pipe wash out near Stroud's Creek, so we have some bypass pumping set up there, and a contractor will have to come replace that. The numbers are still coming in. We will need to replace a significant amount of pumps, motors, and electrical at our river pumping station, and we're estimating about $220,000 for that, not including the monthly cost of having these bypass pumps sitting out there for the vendor to come set them up, take them out, keep gas in them, and monitor them 24/7. I don't have all the invoices from the work at the water plant yet, but we're estimating that to be a little bit less than this. This is our biggest issue right now. And we do a lot of the work ourselves too to try to minimize that cost.
What is the timeline for getting the water plant back online?
So right now we have drained, sanitized, and refilled the finished water clear well. We have taken a bacteria sample. Those samples must sit for 24 hours for official results. Once that comes back and it is absent of bacteria, we will notify the state that those tests are clear. We will notify Durham that we will be ready to transfer back to our production, and then we will do that. Now, we were estimating Monday, but we are hopeful that we will be back in business tomorrow or even Sunday.
Is there any risk of pollution to parts of the ecosystem on the Eno River?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Yes. Is there any risk of pollution to parts of the ecosystem on the Eno River?
Not with this situation. If it had been like a midsummer day and the flow was low and you could see sewage sitting there and observe some type of fish kill or something, that would be a different story. Because the flooding was so high and so quick and the water was so diluted with a very small amount of raw sewage compared to the overall impact of the rainwater, the groundwater, the river water, we don't anticipate any impacts to the Eno.
Did the town receive any of that BRIC funding at all, or did the town receive zero of that BRIC funding before it was pulled?
We applied for the BRIC funding in 2 phases. Phase 1 was design and permitting. Phase 2 is construction. We have had some reimbursements for our Phase 1 design. We are still operating that we will receive Phase 1 funding, but we are positive that they have canceled our Phase 2, which was obviously the bulk of the money we needed to construct these projects.
And that phase 2 was the $7 million, or was that both phases?
It was broke apart. So the whole $7 million included both phases, but we were only dispersed for the first phase, and then we were to redo our cost benefit analysis after the design and a fresh cost estimate to demonstrate the project was still viable, which we were not concerned that it wouldn't be, to get the phase 2. So the way that FEMA disperses the money, they gave us the phase 1, but we were still pending on phase 2. So we have not received and will not receive phase 2 funding for construction.
And the mayor mentioned that this was, that pump station has to be removed from the floodway. So how is the town prepared to pay for something like that now?
We are going to switch to applying for a hazard mitigation under the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program. We understand that the state is also working to accommodate those that have been awarded BRIC funding. North Carolina was very fortunate in that several utilities across the state received BRIC funding. And so I think they are working very hard on a way to try to prioritize those that lost the funding under the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program. But unfortunately, that is going to set our timeline back at least 6 to 8 months, because they will not start reviewing applications until this fall into the winter.
The town says because of this pump station issue, 75% of the town's raw sewage is spilled into the Eno River since Monday. Do we know how much? And just to be clear, is that spill still active?
So as of later this morning, when we got the pumps put in, we just evaluated the outfall manholes that had been overflowing, and they are no longer overflowing. So what's next on my list today, after talking with you all, is to go back, collect all the manholes that overflowed, and put an estimate to them. Again, the state realizes, and we realize, that is going to be a very hard number, given that the manholes were inundated with river water going into them, that rainwater and groundwater were in the pipes from upstream already, and that we had conservation requests in, so we're going to do our best assumption on that. But typically on a dry day, I would say that we probably process, let me think back here. Our plant averages on a dry day about 1.3, 1.4 million gallons a day. Part of that comes from a different basin where it is working. So taking, 75% of that, that's probably what we get in an average day through this station.
Maria, I may have missed it, but help me connect the dots here. So how, back to the BRIC funding, how does this funding loss impact the town following this storm?
Well, it really impacts us greatly because our ratepayers pay for the operations, and some of our capital improvements are also funded by developers, and sometimes we get grants. So we depend on these grants to really take the pressure off our rate setting and impacts to our customers. Because our customers pay solely for the operations, their taxes do not. The smaller amount of your customers, the bigger piece they have to pay for the operations and improvements that we need to make. So this is a huge impact. The loss of this funding is probably equitable to at least 2 or 3 years of a typical capital improvement plan that we would fund ourselves. So now we're reshuffling our capital priorities to try to get this handled, and we're very hopeful that we do receive the hazard mitigation grant funding that we'll be applying for later this fall.
The town manager presented this potential loss of funding back in April. Just to clarify though, would any of these projects have been done prior to this flooding event?
Unfortunately, we were not able to start the projects for at least 1.5 to 2 years after we were awarded them, just because of the paperwork coming from FEMA and through the state. So the state administers the FEMA BRIC program, and we asked for an extension on that time because it took a little bit to get the paperwork and contracts in place to do the project.
And
The second and smaller of the two BRIC grants,
Yes.
can you tell us a little bit about interconnections? Clearly you've got one with Durham. What's the rest of your emergency setup for interconnections? And what would that second grant have done for your interconnections?
Absolutely. We have been a long-standing member of the Triangle Water Partnership. That is a collaboration of utilities all across the Triangle region where we have interconnections of water pipes, and we are laser focused on water supply and resiliency. So we do have an interconnection with the Orange Water and Sewer Authority right now, but we had made some operational changes in adding a new pressure zone to our system, which made the existing pumping station that we had to receive water from OWASA obsolete. So this second BRIC funding was to build a new pumping station that could meet the demands of our higher elevation water pressure zone. So we still have a pipe between the two. We also have a pipe with Orange Alamance water system. That, I believe, is a one-way connection where we can help them, but the engineering doesn't work for them to serve us. So
The
losing...
Durham one doesn't have full capacity to cover everything you need. And
No, it does, but 2 is better than 1.
Yeah.
So we can, and the water coming from the Orange Water and Sewer Authority is actually also in a different river basin. So oftentimes when we have a drought situation, it's impacting Durham as well. So we might not be able to get water from Durham in a drought situation because they're in the same Neuse River basin as we reside in. But Orange Water and Sewer Authority is in a different river basin, and they might be under a different drought condition, and so we would go to them. But Durham is supplying the entire town right now and has been all week.
Maria, I got a quick question
Oh,
about the river itself.
Could this be the last question? Because
Sure.
we were actually holding up the responders to work
Okay.
on there, but we'll do
Real quick
questions
question
after
about
that.
the river. How far down from Hillsborough do you have to go before you can get into the Eno River and it's safe?
Whew. I don't know, actually. I don't know that answer. I don't know what kind of spills Durham had along their infrastructure. We put gravity sewers. Unfortunately, they have to go in low-lying spots, so they're by water bodies. And I am unaware of that. I can ask how far down you might have to go to get to the Eno, but until all this water subsides, and I would maybe give it a few days before I'd recommend anyone really go in the Eno. It does end up at Falls Lake, which is Raleigh's drinking water supply, and I know they monitor that very heavily.
Thank you.
Thank you.